Anytime you work with a new pattern, check out what the seam allowance is noted for that particular project. Every project is a little different. For example, usually when you do garment sewing, it's a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Quilting, a 1/4 inch, and home deck fabric projects, usually for home deck items, you do about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So on your markings here, if you're unfamiliar with which line to follow, lower your needle down and use a little seam gauge. You can buy these at the sewing machine stores and measure out so you know which line to follow for each of the different projects you're doing. You need something for the something wider than the lines that are noted here. You can go ahead and put the seam guide on. This came with the machine, and you can slide it into the back. It's kind of a little stiff to push it in. There's a little black part. It's kind of spring-loaded back here. Push that all the way in, and you can set it. And then all you need to do, here, we'll set it a little bit inside here. Set your fabric edge along that seam guide. And of course, you could have that measured out. So if it's exactly 1.5 inches, you know you're there before you even start out. So once you start sewing, this is great for doing hems, because all you have to do is watch right over here. Super easy. But then if you do anything where you might be doing multiple rows of, say, decorative stitches or just multiple rows of straight stitches, as you pull it out and set up to do your next row, all you do is place your previous stitching line right underneath that seam guide and stitch, and you'll have a perfectly parallel line of stitching. You could do this over an entire quilt and keep that lined up and have perfect parallel stitches every time you stitch without even thinking, and you might only have to mark it once or twice throughout your project. See how that works?